my belief is bigger than their doubt. You have to let you be your biggest critic. Don't let, the outside world get into like your life. At the end of the day, you be your biggest critic, and I think you'll be successful from there.
We are back in the studio. I almost said NotSo podcast.
Hey, I ain't mad at that. You could go ahead and do that. I love the promo.
SpeakUp podcast. We are back in the SpeakUp podcast studio, and we have another special guest for you today. Somebody who is very close to me. I've been very close with him for a number of years now.
Yes, sir.
Don't talk until I introduce you, please. I would appreciate that. Thank you. He is the co-host of the NotSo podcast, co-host of Truth or Drink. He's of Jamaican descent.
Bup.
Wagwan Mayot.
I hate this guy.
It be the boy Lil Jawdin.
Yes,
he's in
sir.
the building.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, man, for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me, man.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes, sir.
How you been, man?
I can't complain, man. Everything's on the up, Love what the podcast is doing right now. Truth to Drink with my brother Sean T. Just working, trying to stay, positive through this thing we call life,
Right, NotSo podcast. How long have you guys been doing that?
Wow, so that's a long story with that one, but
we got time.
You feel me? So NotSo podcast started a little bit after I graduated, and the funny thing that a lot of people don't know is that I actually wasn't a part of the original cast. The way how it started, they were doing like a soft promo. It was Rolly, Concy, Austin, and Jeff. And like they were doing like a soft promo, and I was like, I was like, yo, this is something I would love to be a part of. And I hit up Jeff, individually. He was like, okay, bet I'm gonna get back to him. I'll let you know. Hit him up, and then he added me to the chat, and it's been a movie ever since. You feel me? So, podcast started like in I want to say October 2017.
Okay.
So I was kind of fresh off graduating college. So that started, and we had some ups and downs, but it's been one of my pride and joys.
Nice. So when you started, did you think it was going to be a long-term thing, or it was more, I'm just going to dabble in this and see how it goes?
Well, that's a great question, because when it first started, I was like, wow, I really hope that we can be consistent, and my biggest fear was that, we're going to say we're going to do all these things and then it's going to flop. When we started, we were going great. And then, when you depend on other people, sometimes that can like fall through for you. And when we had that first fall through, I was kind of worried. I'm not going to lie, because at that point, it kind of stopped for a little bit. But, we kept talking, we kept planning, we kept, having different ideas of where we could do the podcast. And since that, I know that we'll be good forever.
Yeah. That consistency for sure.
Right.
So with it being a podcast, you're not the only person on it.
Yes, sir.
So how is it dealing with all these different other personalities and time management? That's got to be a lot, right?
It's definitely a lot, man, because like you said, it's like so many different things going on. And Jeff is a father. Everybody works. And like I said, it's not something you're getting paid for. This is simply just like your passion. So you have to actually love doing it to want to keep doing it. And that's the thing that I think, keeps us all coming back, is the fact that we all love having these conversations. We love getting, the perspective of the people. And then, we just love talking about that, debating it out sometimes, it's in a sense our therapy from, real world. And for those 2 hours, we're just a podcast family, doing what we have to do. And I think, that's what keeps it going, because like I said, it's so many things going on in the world. We all have different lives, but the podcast kind of keeps us all afloat.
So for those who don't know, what is NotSo podcasting? Can you describe it for the people a little bit?
Yes, sir. So NotSo podcast, and I'll start with even the name. When we first did it, we were like, we're kind of a radio show. And we're kind of a podcast, because we're going to be playing music. It's just so many different things going on. So let's just say, like, we're not the regular podcast. So let's just call it NotSo podcast. So, of course, with us, we talk about the news that are going around, not only in the world, but like locally. And we talk about topics, and we kind of give you like updates on our week and like what we've been doing. And that's kind of it. We kind of we started with, how our weeks were. We go straight to news. We'll do a music break. We'll do 2 topics, another music break, and then we'll end it out with 2 topics again. And sometimes, what we'll do is we'll have guests come on the show, and we'll kind of give them like some plugs to talk about what they're doing. We have giveaways on the show. So, we're not the typical like regular podcast, we kind of do things a little bit different, like of a radio show, but I think that's the thing that makes it so, unique and different. So for people listening, if they wanted to create a podcast,
right, maybe similar to NotSo podcast, what would be some of the things you would tell them to do and to stay away from?
Oh, wow. So the first thing I would say, if you're interested in doing a podcast, you got to do your research. So for me, being a part of NotSo podcast, I like to, watch a lot of different podcasts, such as like Drink Champs. I know the Breakfast Club is kind of a radio show, but I love the way how they conduct interviews. So when they do an interview, I kind of want to take notes from them, like what kind of question they ask, how they feed off each other's energy. Because we're a group of I'll be 5, and they're only 3, and sometimes they're button heads with each other, like kind of like over speaking. So we have that same problem. So I kind of like take notes from what they do, so we can like improve on that. I would also say you just gotta start. Sometimes, a lot of times, like you want to do something, like you're fearful of it because you're not sure how it will be. They say your first attempt at many things are going to be awful. So I'm pretty sure our first podcast was awful. And if you don't believe me, you could probably go on SoundCloud and find it, because all of our episodes are on iTunes and SoundCloud. So
shout out to NotSo podcast.
You feel me?
Go check that out.
Yes, sir. So, the first thing you just got to do is start. Get you a soundboard, get you a mic, get you some plugs, hook that thing up and just start talking, but you got to what I would say, you have to prepare. What I do is like our show is every Thursday. As soon as that show ends on that Thursday, like I'm looking at I'm looking at what I did wrong. You feel me? So, and how can I improve that? And I'm looking at what my podcast mates did wrong and like how we can improve that. And like, we all talk about, being more educated on like news topics, having more actual topics to actually talk about, having more facts to, make your argument stronger, like preparation is really important. That's why they say proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance, because if you don't have that, your show is most likely going to be, bad. So preparation before your show. But the biggest thing I would say is just start. If you just start, then you can know like what you can improve on.
So with me knowing you,
right,
you've been Jawdin ever since I've known you.
Thank you.
So before I've known you, were you still that lively person, or did you kind of like grow into that person?
To be real with you, bro, I want to say I've always been a lively person. Always been a social butterfly. I'm not afraid of a conversation. As long as somebody's vibe is right, somebody's energy is good, I'm pretty sure we're going to strike up a conversation. Yeah, I don't think, at any point, I was kind of the boring person. You feel me? I'm kind of the one that's usually kind of loud, kind of one talking. The one usually talking, the one asking you questions, vibing. Yeah, I'll take it. I'm a lifer.
Talk about that. So,
yeah,
with your other show.
Yes, sir.
Truth or Drink.
Yes, sir.
How you liking that and how that came about?
Bro, I actually really, really love Truth or Drink, and I just want to say shout out to Shanti the GOAT for this one. He hit me up and he was like, yo, I think, my followers need to know a little bit more about me. I think we should do this. And he sent me a video link, and it was Michael B. Jordan, I believe. And he was getting asked 50 questions by this guy. And, he was like, yeah, let's do this, but you feel me, let's add drinking to it. You feel me? Like in every question I don't ask, I'm going to take a shot.
Of course.
And, I added my spin on it. I was like, bro, I can't, you feel me? You like, me and you, we're drinking buddies, but I can't see you take a shot and I don't take one. So for everyone you take, I'm going to take. So we did it. It was fun. It was great. You feel me? Like both our lives were jumping. I was like, yo, let's keep this going, And, ever since then, we've had 3 shows so far. 2, if you count his as the pilot. So his was the pilot. And then we did Dylan, shout out to the homie Dylan, and then shout out to the our brothers Walty K. So, and it was great vibes, you get to like literally see like how a person answer changes, as they continue to drink.
Yeah.
And we're getting these questions straight from, fans. And I just love it because of course I don't want to call it as like, a talent, but Shanti and I, we are able to control our liquor. We are able to like, conduct ourselves. So we say, you know what, let's make a show out of this. And it's something that's really fun. I think a lot of times, like when someone does an interview with someone, like they have this big guard up. Once you add some liquor involved, it's kind of like you don't got no choice but to get comfortable. Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, with the show, of course, you're going to get, some questions that are, kind of a little personal. And sometimes you may not want to answer, but that's what the liquor's for. Take that shot. But at the same time, what me and Shanti love to do, we like to actually ask you like real things. And I hate to say it, but one of my favorite quotes is, the drunk man tells no tales. Once you start drinking and we ask you a serious question, we know we're about to get the real answer, whether you like it or not. So I think it's a show that, is going to go on for some time. I mean, the only bad thing about it is, we're not alcoholics here. So of course, we can't do this show like, every week, but we try to get it done at least twice a month. And this one that we have coming up, with our fam, Elsie and Anissa, I think it's going to be really good because they're our first ladies coming to the show. So I'm very, very excited about that. But so far, I just love the fact that, we've been able to put out video content. We've been getting like a lot of support. A lot of people say they want to be on the show. And mind you, we have so much things that we have to get done with it. But so far, I really, really love the reception that we've been getting.
So with your shows, with your YouTube shows and NotSo podcast, what's the best way for what's been the best way for you to market and to get the word out?
To be real, I think the best way is Instagram, because I think that's like my personal favorite, my favorite platform. Because I believe that, you could post, you make a post, you can make a story, you can post a clip, of the show or the video. But the best thing always is like, word of mouth, when you tell people like, oh, what you do and this is what it is. And then I can show you like a link. And I think that's where YouTube comes in. Video content will always take you to the next level. And that's another advice I would probably give to someone starting up a podcast. Always have video content and just keep the camera rolling, because you don't know how many different clips will be so funny, like your facial expressions or the way how you said a word. Like, it's just that video content, it just takes you to the next level. So especially with Truth or Drink, being that we have more video content with that show, I think that YouTube probably like takes you to the next level. And you feel me? You could just show that to anybody. So yeah, I think Instagram for sure, but YouTube definitely is a close second.
You mentioned earlier about your circle and the people you hang around with. How do you choose those people? And I know a lot of times we like to say we like to keep our circle tight. How do you handle that?
Great question. Well, first and foremost, when it comes to that, the people that I'm around pretty much on a daily basis are my brothers. Whether that be through organizations and basically like people that I met like pretty much the first day of college, which then we all know that's man look, to like brothers that I grew up, from like high school, like they took me on they win. Like, I'm always around brothers. That's the first thing. So that's the blessing. I have people that I know I can legit trust, because of like just continuous, you feel me, like proven loyalty. But I am a big believer in having friends. I don't believe in the quote, I don't need no friends. I talked about this on the podcast last week, because in this life, you always are going to need someone to help you to reach the next step. I have not gotten to any point that I have been by just being by myself. Like I told you with the podcast, I wasn't a part of that original cast. It was because of my friends that I saw were doing something that I was like, okay, I would like to be a part of it. And I hit up someone, a part of it, and they like, okay, of course. So you feel me? I strongly believe like throughout college, like that showed me like you always need somebody, you feel me, that you can consider a friend to like get to the next level, So with my circle though, I'll be honest, there's certain things, I won't do with a friend, I'll do with my brothers. That's just what it is, you feel me? At the end of the day, like my brothers, like I've known these guys for like years and years. We've been through like thick and thin. At this point, you feel me, like it's nothing gonna break the bond. So on a daily basis, though, I am with my brothers, but I am a strong believer in friends.
With you having all these side projects, with Truth or Drink, NotSo podcast,
right,
they take up a lot of your time. And you also have a full-time job, correct?
Right. Yes.
So how do you manage that time and make sure that you give each one what it deserves?
I tell you what, man, with the podcast and with Truth or Drink, these are things that I'm so passionate about. And I'll be honest, when you're working, you can't always, give the time you want. But when you have to get something done, and when people are depending on you, and when you could become better, like if you just give a little bit more effort, you do it. Yeah, sometimes I get home late. Sometimes, I'm a little bit tired, but if I have a goal, like if I said I wanted to get 5 more followers on the podcast page, like I'm going to go on Instagram, go follow some people. If it was a topic that I need to like read a little bit more about, I'm going to go read it. If it's something I need to like look into in like an old video for Truth to Drink to see like how I could act something better or how I could react to something better, I'm going to do that. Those things are important. You have to, I continuously analyze, how can I get better at being behind this thing called the mic. I want to get to a point where like it becomes like second nature. I think, you have to just have that dedication. If you don't have dedication towards something that you're doing, you're not going to love it, whether that be your job, whether that be a side hustle, whether that be a passion. If you don't love it, you're not going to give any, effort towards it. So for me, the fact that I actually love doing the podcast, I love doing Truth to Drink, like that allows me to, always give it, some time. It might not be as much time as I want to be because of work and because of, life duties, but I'm going to give it some time no matter what.
And also, you've been doing the podcast for a number of years and have been attached to several projects. What have these projects taught you about yourself over these years and over doing them for so long and having that dedication to them?
It goes back to that first, when I told you we had that first little mishap, when we didn't have a spot for the podcast. It showed me that, I have a lot of drive. And when I'm passionate about something, I'm going to keep going. I mean, that's something I kind of knew already, but it's just something I kind of, reproved to myself. The podcast is a place where it's not always easy because, like I said earlier, it's different schedules, different things. But I want to be that person that is like the glue for our podcast. Like in rough times and good times, I want to be the person that is always there to keep us balanced. So like, and of course, people have always told me about this. Like they say, like you have like this old soul, like a father figure, like a coach feel.
It's the beard.
I think it might have something to do with that, but that's something that you feel me. Like I've just learned to embrace. Like I'm gonna think about the bet like long term, so, and I think that's something that, more older people do. They kind of just, think about like long term, instead of just thinking like in the moment. Same thing with Truth to Drink, working with Shanti, he's a hustler, and he already has so many things done with his YouTube page. So the fact that we have a show together, man, I'm just trying to make sure that I, bring as much to the show that he already does. Cause like I said, he's someone that I look up to as far as like his videos, his content, how he puts it out. So that's just kind of really it for me as far as like, the podcast and Truth to Drink. Like I try to give it like a lot of my effort, and I think I kind of prove to myself on a daily basis, like, yeah, this is something that you're passionate about. So you keep going.
Well, given all that effort, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to take a toll on you, and it takes up a lot of your time. Right. You can't get time back. When did you know doing even just NotSo podcast was the right thing to do? After
interviews, and people tell you like, wow, like I really love this, like I really appreciate this, and like, wow, this vibe was really good. Like that's what let me know like we have something good here, because yeah, you're doing it with your podcast mates and it's great, but once you bring somebody else into the mix now, and they tell you like, wow, I love what y'all doing, like this is something different what I did ever done before. Because some people, when they go to a podcast, like maybe they're just talking about maybe the topic that they're talking about, they're just talking about maybe like even the news that's going on, but they're not doing all three. They're not doing the news, the topics, and getting their own personal interview. And like I said, for us, it's like we're all about a good vibe. So when people come to the podcast and show us a good vibe, and the same thing with Truth to Drink, they say like, wow, like that really wasn't that bad. Like I had a lot of fun. Like that's what does it for me and lets me know like, okay, the word that you're putting in really means a lot.
Say that is somebody out there. They don't have a voice, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a vision. Mm-hmm. What would you tell them to do to make sure that their voice and their vision comes true? And what would you do to make sure they accomplish their goal?
With a goal, I think, the first thing you have to do is you have to write it down, and you have to keep looking at it every morning. You have to like continuously like work towards that goal. You can't just say, oh, this is my goal, and not work towards it. So that'll be the first piece of advice I give. Like for me, like it was being a part of like, some type of radio show. Lucky for me, I have a lot of like connections, like where, like I said, I was able to, like work, like get in contact with Jeff and the rest of the podcast mates, and we were able to like do that. But I never took that as like, a way to just slack off. Like, okay, now I'm on a podcast. I want to have a successful podcast. Okay, what do? You have to study other podcasts. You have to do your research on topics. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to become comfortable behind the mic. That was my goal. So for someone who, like, let's say, like, okay, I want to become a successful doctor. Okay. How? Well, first thing you have to do is, if you're in school, you have to make sure you're paying attention in your classes. You have to make sure that, you feel me, you're studying on like the things that they don't teach you in the classroom. You have to make sure that you're not just planning for today, but for like after college, because there's so much more things that happen. So, but the biggest thing is just knowing that you have to like continuously look at that goal, because that holds you accountable. Whether you put that on your wall, or you put that like above your ceiling when you wake up so you can see it on your phone as your background picture, you have to continuously look at it and say, okay, I need to do something. I didn't do something towards this goal today. And whether it be before you go to sleep and you read an article on something, the best doctors, or where can I apply for medical school? Like, it's different things that you can do like throughout the day. And it doesn't have to be big. You know, a lot of times people think it has to be something so big to like, you know, reach your goal, when it's just like it's little steps. As long as you're doing something like daily to reach that goal, you know, that'll be my advice for sure. And then it's like, don't be so hard on yourself when something doesn't work out. At the end of the day, you know, Dwayne Wade, you know, he says it's like, you know, he says, my belief is bigger than their doubt. You have to let you be your biggest critic. Don't let, you know, the outside world get into like your life. You know, at the end of the day, you be your biggest critic, and I think you'll be successful from there.
Wow. And you touched on something that I thought was really powerful, not letting the outside world be your biggest critic. At times we need mentors, we need examples, we need people to kind of guide us in the right direction. When do you think is the best time to not listen to those people and to kind of go your own way?
It's a mixed feeling with that, because one, I'll say this: when you start hearing so much negative and you're still passionate about what you're doing and you believe that it could be successful, then from right there, you tune them out. But at the same time, you have to take, you feel me, you know, what someone is saying, you know, for what it is. Like, if someone is telling you, you know, like advice, and you're hearing it after a while from more than one person, obviously you might need to take that because that's what we call wisdom. Like, if one person becomes 10 people, then maybe you need to change something.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're passionate about something and, you know, you're sharing that with someone, and you know you're working diligently to it, and you know you can accomplish it, and people are telling you negative things, to hell with them. At the end of the day, like, you got to tune them out, you know. Or as long as you know you're giving the effort, though. If you know you're not giving the effort, then maybe some things will have to change. But if you know, like, you're giving the effort, you're giving it your time, you're sacrificing, and maybe they can't see the vision right now, hey, tune them out. Keep going.
Tell me a little bit about the beginnings of Jawdin, of Lil Jawdin.
Yes, sir. Well, great question. I come from a completely Jamaican household. Mom's from Jamaica, dad's from Jamaica. So obviously, like, there's some discipline in that household, of course. I was kind of a mama's boy growing up. You know, my dad, you know, was kind of the stricter one. So I kind of, you know, like, leaned towards my mom in a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, it was a loving household. You know, I have an older sister by 6 years. That's my only sibling, and it was the four of us. I mean, loving household. One thing they always stressed to us was education. I mean, school. So, you know, it became a point, you know, like, when I was in school, you know, like, I would be scared to bring home a bad grade, because I know how much, like, that meant to him, you know. And I mean, like, I knew when I brought home a certificate or, you know, honor roll, like, that's when you saw the biggest smile on their face, you know. You know, sports is great. You know, they loved all that, but they more so loved, like, you know, academics. You know, as long as that was okay, like, that was, you know, a great thing. And I mean, for me, my sister actually set the tone. I mean, I kind of followed my sister everywhere since middle school. The middle school she went to, I went to. The high school she went to, I went to. Only thing is the difference with the college. So I mean, she graduated from college at Bethune-Cookman, and then I mean, that kind of, like, I feel like I had the same, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, growing up in that household, of course, like, you know, education is stress, but, you know, the fact that she was able to do it, I was like, okay, I got to do it too. So, you know, we're both two college graduates that my parents raised. I mean, so, I mean, I know they feel, you know, like, very successful and very happy about that. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I grew up in the hood, but I wasn't someone who was always, you know, like, in the streets like that. Like, of course, I have friends that, you know, went down the wrong path. And the thing I tell, you know, like the youth is that, you know, I was one decision away. You know, the only difference between me and them is that I don't know. I think I just listened to what my parents told me, and I looked at the bigger picture. I said, you know, I don't want to be here for the rest of my life. I don't want to do something stupid and get in trouble and, you know, like make my family like, you know, sad about something that I did, you know. You know, when they made a left, I say, you know, I'm gonna make this right. And when they decided to make that right, I was like, you know what, maybe I should make this left. You know, about face it all, you know. At the end of the day, like, you know, I love those guys, but I knew at the end of the day, like, you know, I had a bigger vision, you know. I knew that wasn't for me, you know. So my upbringing, you know, like I said, was a little strict, you know, here and there, some tears here and there from a beating, but at the end of the day, when you get to my age of 23 going on 24 now, you appreciate those things, you know, because they make you the man who you are today.
And you were talking about making less when others made rights. And we spoke a little bit about your circle. How did you know who to hang around back then? Was it just a vibe thing, or? I'm
going to be honest with you, bro. And this is the thing that I feel like so difficult, because at the end of the day, I don't believe you should hang out with just, you feel me, like people that go to school. Because you got to have some street smarts. You got to have some street. You got to know what's going on in your surroundings, bro. So, you know, it's certain lingo you got to pick up on. It's certain like traits you got to pick up on. And my parents didn't teach me none of this. It was just me like peeping stuff. Like when I'm in this area, I got to act like this. And when I'm in this area, I should act like this. Like it's so funny in high school, you know, it was this big thing, you know, like they were able to tell like which kids, you know, came from my hood and which kids came from like, you know, the other hood. Like it was like Miramar versus Melrose kind of thing. If you dress good, you came from Miramar. If you dress kind of like rough and rugged, you came from Melrose. And they didn't know that I came from Melrose because of the way I dress, but they didn't know like I'm riding the bus with these people. Like these are my homies. Like these are my boys. Like if something were to go down, like these boys is throwing punches for me. So when I used to tell people where I'm from, I was like, stop lying. No, you're not. But you know, like, you know, it's a different, and that's what showed me like I can play both sides, you know, like at the end of the day, like I know how to carry myself. So I think at the end of the day, the way I'm gonna raise my child is like this, like, look, this is what I want you to do, but I want you to understand this. You feel me? Like this is, you know, and then you have to understand you got to have some street smarts.
So you touched on how you're going to raise your child. What are going to be some of the differences that that you're going to raise your child from how you were raised?
Great question, man. So like I said, so my parents were kind of like the stricter kind, you know, and like I said, I'm grateful for it. But after a while, you know, like if I wanted to go outside the house, like I used to have to use this same line. I'm going to a dinner party. I'll never forget, like I'll be going to like a party. I'm going to this little dinner party at TGI Fridays. Oh man, I will always like try to finesse it to the best of my possibility to get back in by at least midnight or 1 o'clock, you know. But I think, you know, I'm going to allow my child to, you know, do certain things, but it's really a test. If I tell you to be back home by 10 and you come back at 10:30, well, obviously there's going to be some repercussions. We're going to have a conversation. I think I'm going to be a person that's big on talking. Like, I'm not going to get mad, but we're going to have a conversation. Like, okay, we talked about it this way. I let you go, and this is what happened. So let's discuss how we can fix this, and let's not. And what can we do to like, you know, how can I make myself more clear, or what will you do different that will make you like come back soon? Because I understand. If one thing about me, I'm understanding. And I mean, like the times is changing right now, and I see that at the age of 23, like. When I get to maybe at the point where I do have kids, like it's going to be even another type of generation. So you're going to have to adapt to the times, understand that things have changed. And I know with my parents, like they were just so like, that's why I probably hate watching news now, because they always watch the news and it was always some bad news on. So there was like, time is so serious. It's like, oh, here we go again. I used to hate when 10 o'clock came on. They'd be like, oh, turn on the news. And like, you know, oh, 10-year-old boy gets abducted. And I was like, oh yep. There goes that part.
I'm not going outside for a while.
There goes that part I want to go to this weekend. So you feel me? Like it's those type of things that would go through my head. Like at the end of the day, man, you gotta let your kids be. I mean, definitely still be protective, you know. And I still might be that guy, you know, like, you know, my son on his first day or my daughter going on the first day, I'm gonna like just to go to the spot just out of curiosity, make sure they're there.
Yeah.
But you know, as long as I see them there, you know, like they're having a good time, I'm out of there. You know, like I just want to make sure you're doing what you say. You know, I want to be that open type relationship where I'm not we're not buddy, but you're able to come to me and have that respect for me, and we're able to have a conversation.
You know your children are gonna be Jamaican. I can tell you that right now. I already see it.
Without a doubt.
And you know, growing up, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you know, Jamaicans smoke weed, this and that." So, with that being said,
nice.
if one of your children were to be caught smoking weed or ended up partaking, younger or older, how would you feel about that, and what would you do?
Well, everyone knows if you know me on a deeper level, you know, like I'm not really too fond of that.
Why aren't you fond of it?
I'm not fond of it because, like, I've always said that's just not me. I never liked the look of it, you know. That just was never me. I've always been more so on the drinking side of things, and I'm just not too fond of smoking. But the first and foremost, I mean, no child under my roof is smoking. I'm sorry, you're not. if you're under my house,
times are changing, Jawdin.
No, it is. But at the end of the day, like, this was one thing that never changed. You paying on any bills? What do you bring in that I should think that you could do that in my house? No. If you want to smoke, by all means, do that, but you ain't doing that in my house. Mm-hmm. And if you come back in and think that you can, like, you've done that and think you can come back in my house, no way. I'm sorry. And then you have to be of age. To me, like, if you're not an adult, if you're not 18, you shouldn't be thinking about none of that. You feel me? Like, dude, you best believe, boy, you better not make me find out. And the thing is, like, one of the best quotes I've heard from wise people is that I've been your age. You haven't been mine. So everything you're trying to do, I'm going to peep. Like, you feel me? Like, and I'm probably going to realize it by accident. Like, I'm just going in your room, probably dropping something off, and I see papers. You feel now we're going to have a conversation, you know? But at the same time, I understand, like, you know, things happening. Kids will be kids. I'm not going to, you know, I disown my child. I'm not going, you know, turn up and nothing. But I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to let them know, like, you feel me? Like, this is what it is. Like, this is how I feel about it. I mean, they want to continue from that and this, them. But I know I'm going to set an example. And at that point, you feel me? Like, if you want to take another route, then, I mean, that's a decision that you're going to have to make as a man or as a woman. But I know for you, I'm going to set the example of how, you feel me, you should act. And if you want to do something else, then, you feel me? Like, I have never put a joint blunt to my mouth and look at me. Like, I'm still able to hang around those people. I'm still able to be cool with those people. But it is what it is. We'll see how it happens. I've actually thought about that a lot in my life.
Thought about smoking?
No. Like, my kids actually probably want to do that.
I mean, yeah, times are changing. Weed is legal. Well, it's getting legal.
It is.
It ain't gonna be a thing.
It's a good point. It definitely is getting legal.
But you mentioned something about your children looking at you as an example.
Right.
So let's say when they're 14, 15 years old, who would they be looking at?
I think I'll still be the same person, but just like more wiser, just more, you feel me? When they're 14, 15, at that point, well, for my son, I do believe, I've always said this, like, when they turn 15, that judgment day is coming, and he's going to feel himself, and he's going to come in, and I'm going to ask him to do something one day. And,
you wash the dishes.
And then it's going to be a party, you feel me? It's going to be a party, you feel me? And I'm going to have to put him in his place.
Oh, nah.
I do believe, like, when those ages start to come around, that's when your little man starts to become like, you feel me? Like, nah, daddy, I've been lifting weights. I've been feeling good. I'm playing football. I'm starting, like, you can't talk to me and do what you was doing, like, you feel me, when I was like 7. You feel me? So I do believe that's going to be a little bit more rough. And I do believe that's the time when you feel me, like, your daughter's like, yo, dad, like, I'm growing up. I'm an adult. Like, at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. Like, you feel me? I want to start showing my stomach a little bit. I want to show a little. It's going to be literally like hell, probably. But at the end of the day, you know, like, that's why you have, you feel me, a wife, you feel me, like, to make you look at things from a different perspective. But it all just comes back down to respect, man. I think, you know, I'm going to have that relationship with my kids where it's going to be like, look, man, we have to understand each other. Like, I'm your dad, I'm the parent, you feel me? And I understand this is the time, but you have to understand, you have to respect the house, you have to respect what it is. They're not an adult yet, you feel me? Like, when you get to this age, I promise you can do whatever you want to do. And I promise you're going to think about what I taught you, you feel me? Because, like I said, like, even with what my parents taught me, like I said, they were a little bit too strict, I feel like, but I always remember what they said and what they talked about. And even if, you feel me, like, I still went aside what they did, I never forgot, like, the bigger picture. Like, right. You know, like, you don't want to, like, pay for a silly mistake, you feel me, that you could have prevented by just walking away or something like that. So that's really the biggest thing for me, just making my kids think before they act.
And what I get from you, you're a very thought-provoking individual. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you have an old soul. Mm-hmm. Some might even say you have like you've been here before in the fashion world. Mm-hmm. Tell me about where you get your fashion from and what inspires the way you dress. And
I'm going to be real with you, man. When it comes to just dressing, I mean, first and foremost, like, I just want to say shout out to my big sis. It's crazy. Like, I got my style actually from my sis. You know, like the way I talk to my like friends today when I see them putting on something crazy, that's like how my sis used to talk to me when I put on something crazy. So I got my style really from her, and then I kind of like branched out. But for me, I think my style is kind of simple. You know, the collar shirts that I wear, well, not collar shirts, but the button downs that I wear, it kind of just, I put one on and I was like, yo, I like the way I look. I like the way I look. I like how this looks really a lot, and I'm going to continue to do it. I kept going from there. But my fashion sense is just more so like, you feel me, like be cost effective, but be like still have a statement with it, you know. I mean, of course, you know, like we work now, we're adults, you know, so you could kind of like flex a little bit more, probably spend a little bit of money on the shoes here, get you a little designer shirt here and there. But at the end of the day, I'm still that Marshalls, that TJ Maxx, that Ross type of guy, that, you know, you feel me, that will gladly wear a fit like that, you know, out and probably still get more likes than somebody in some designer, you feel me, on Instagram. You know, it's just about, you know, like swaggering out to the best of your ability, you know. I think for me, the biggest thing I've always, you know, cared about with my look is looking clean, you know, like it's different from like, you know, like just throwing something on. Like for me, like my mom always taught me about ironing your clothes, you know, like it's crazy. Like my mom ironed jeans. So guess what I do sometimes? I'm ironing jeans, you know, like, you know, it's just a clean look you got to have. Maybe it's a Jamaican thing, you know, about their kids, like, you know, like the way how they leave the house. Like all of elementary school, like my mom made sure I had my shirt tucked in. You know, I really had to like, look, I'm not doing this no more. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm not tucking my shirt in no more. Ironing my clothes, like brushing my hair. Of course, now I have a beard, making sure like that looks right. Clean fingernails. Like it's like a clean look with me, you know, like I just like feeling clean, looking right. Like a lot of people like wearing dirty Chucks and dirty Vans. I wipe off my Vans. I wipe off my Chucks like after everywhere. I just like that clean look. Like that's just me. You feel me? Like, and that's like my fashion sense in a way. Like I don't really care too much about like being this big model, but if I do flick up a picture, I want to look the part.
That makes sense. It makes sense. You probably got that clean look from your sister, like you said before, and you know, built that from her. Right. That's amazing, man. What makes you so close with your sister?
Well, growing up with the parents that we did, I mean, you couldn't go out that much. So a lot of times, y'all two. I mean, and I grew up without cable, so you feel me. A lot of times, like it was conversation that we had, you know. And I mean, like it's crazy because I mean, she's a girl, 6 years older than me, so it's kind of like, you know, she's going through what she's learning about. I'm going through, you know, like what I'm learning about, and it's kind of just, it's a different times. And I'll be honest, we didn't always agree with things. I mean, you know, my sister is a girl. Like, and she's not no tomboy. When I wanted to play catch, she was watching the Parkers, or you feel me? Like it's definitely something that was different. But I just knew, you feel me? Like when my sister put something together, like she would look in the mirror and do certain things. I'm like, wow, why is she doing that? But like anytime she went out, she got a compliment. You know, like I mean, like being that's like we only got each other. I'm the baby bro. That's big sis. I mean, that's gonna always make us close. I mean, you know, and when you grow up in a family where, you know, like you don't have everything you want, you know, mom and dad, they tried their best, but you know, when you really just have each other like that, close knit, I mean, you're bound to be close.
So, in closing. If you could do something for the rest of your life and get paid for it, what would it be?
If our podcast could become something where, you know, like, you know, we start to get celebrities to come in and we start to generate revenue, like that'd be great. I mean, Truth to Drink is great, but really and true is just if I could get paid for giving back to the youth and giving back to, you feel me, those that don't have it in some type of way, giving my life experiences and advice, I'll be good with that. But I love, like I said, being behind the mic. I love being a personality, and like if I could just get paid for, you know, like me being me, you know, because I've learned that at the end of the day, like I do have the gift of, you know, like sparking up a room, and then maybe it's gonna take some time, but you feel me? If that could be something I get paid for, I am not mad at that at all.
I definitely can see that happen, man.
Appreciate it, bro.
And I do appreciate you for joining me.
Yes, sir.
Here on SpeakUp Podcast.
I appreciate you having me, man. Shout out to what you're doing here, man, and I really wish you all the best with it, man. Definitely love it. And for all those that, you know, want to tune in NotSo Podcast, you can reach us, you know, every Thursday from 8 to 10 on Thursdays on the Mixler app. And if you want to catch us on Truth to Drink, you can catch us on the Mad Look YouTube channel / Truth to Drink. And yeah, appreciate y'all support.
What's your IG, man?
IG, it's Jawdin. You feel me? If you want to follow your boy, get at me. I will follow back, I promise. Twitter is Jawdin as well, and that's probably about the only social media you really catch me on. So
no Facebook, man?
Nah, man. I deactivated that a long time. Too much family members.
True. Makes sense, man. Hey, man. And we out.
Yes, sir.